How to cure your FOMO and what to tell your best friend when they're being a jerk on this week's episode of Backstage. Hey everybody, welcome Backstage. This is the Advanced Podcast. Thanks for joining us. And today I am joined by my friend Lindsay Bostancic.
Hello.
And my new friend, Marty McRary.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me. How y'all doing today?
Great.
Good.
So last week I sat down at this lovely round table with our good friend Mike Atkins, and we hit on something that I kind of wanted to dig a little bit deeper into. As we're talking about friendship and friends. And something we talked about was that some of the biggest relational issues in our lives, and it's really not just with friends, it can be with family or whoever, come from the fact that we have these like unspoken expectations of people. And then other people fail to meet them, and then you're disappointed when they realistically didn't have a shot at meeting your expectations because you never told them about it. So I wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper into that and into like the forgiveness side of what to do when a friend wrongs you and all that. So to start us off, like for you personally, and you know, if you want to look back at yourself as a middle schooler or high schooler, or if you want to talk about it now, what are some of those unspoken expectations that you tend to have for friends? Like if somebody's going to be in your crew, if they're going to be your ride or dies or whatever you want to call them, your squad, what are some of the expectations that you have for that group of people, whether or not you're actually like sharing those expectations?
Well, fourth grade me would say we had to wear flared pants or we weren't in the right, or we couldn't be in our friend group. We had to wear those flared pants. But I would say like a real expectation I probably have on people is text me back, respond to me. I'm one who likes to call people more. Like I'll text you, but if I call you, it means I really want to talk to you, and you don't call me back. That's gonna like hurt my feelings more than me texting you. Because I'm like, texting. I forget to text people back all the time. I'll open it and not respond, but that phone call me back.
Yeah,
yeah. Absolutely.
What about you, Marty? Are there any, what are your like expectations for the people that are in your like inner circle?
Yeah, my inner circle, my ride or dies. It will have to be wherever you go, I go. Kind of like that invitation more so. I know me back in high school, I had a group of friends, I had two close friends. They went off to a party together and I didn't get invited. Ooh. And I remember it was like around the same time Facebook came out, so I might be dating myself a little bit, but I saw pictures that they were at a party and I didn't get invited to.
This was like this was the start of people realizing that was a thing.
Right.
Like seeing the photos of other people's fun that you weren't a part of.
Right. You're like, oh, really?
That's what we're doing today.
Right. That's where we're at.
Yep.
And so it's just a simple invite.
So that's interesting because Mike, who was here last week, he and I have a mutual friend. His name is Jake, and Jake is fairly introverted, and like his idea of a Friday night is like chilling out at home, playing video games or watching TV or whatever. And Mike is, on the other hand, is very extroverted, likes to go out with people, likes to go to like baseball games and eat at restaurants and stuff. And so he will extend invitations to both Jake and I and be like, hey, I know you don't like sports or crowds, but I want you to know, like, we're going to the baseball game Friday night. I just want you to know that you're invited. I'm like, awesome. Hey, respect. Thanks for inviting me. You know the answer's no. I'm sorry to disappoint if that's disappointing for you. But yeah, like just the invitation, even if you know it's not something that somebody's going to want to do. But they're also, I guess the flip side of that is you have to have a good enough friendship to be able to tell somebody that you don't want to do something.
Yeah.
Because like that's also bad, is if somebody's inviting you to stuff that you're like, oh, I feel bad saying no because they invited me. And if I keep not going, then they're gonna never invite me to anything again. So I think it's just clear communication, right? I mean, there's gotta be, everybody just needs to know themselves and know what to expect from each other. And you can be like open and honest and real with each other. Well, whether it's a result of unmet expectations, somebody not texting you back or not inviting you, regardless as to whether or not you wanted to go. Ultimately, we're human, we're flawed, we're imperfect. So we get, and I certainly don't mean this to sound like negative or depressing, but like, because nobody's perfect, you will be let down by your friends at some point. So any stories popping up to mind when a friend like let you down, whether it was like relatively like on the surface level or if it was like a deep hurt, like they did not show up for a very significant event or whatever. And how do you deal with that when you feel like somebody has failed you as a friend?
I know personally I've failed people like as a friend. Like I was that girl in high school that boys were more important than like my friend group. Okay. I know I'm that person, and like looking back now I see it, but in high school I didn't see it or like understand that like, oh, you should just hang out with your girlfriends. Like boys, they aren't going to stick around all the time.
Sure.
So like I was a bad friend in that sense of I was just like, I'll go hang out with this boy. Like I don't need girlfriends, but it's kind of something what I learned is like, oh, you were actually the bad friend in that moment, which is so hard
that one hurts.
Because you're like, oh, I didn't know I should have apologized for that, because my friends at the time weren't being honest and upfront and saying like, hey, like I noticed this behavior in you, like we also want to hang out with you. So like one of my big things to tell students now is like, make sure you keep your girlfriends or your guy friends around. Don't just ditch them for a significant
for the person
other.
You're dating. Yeah. I remember that. Did you experience that where you like, it's like, hey, where's John? It's like, he got another girlfriend.
Yeah.
Got girlfriend John around.
We're not going to see him for a while.
We got a girlfriend. It's over. We want to see him for another year.
Well, we can either, we just got to wait till they break up, or if we want to try to break them up, if we ever want to hang out with him again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a bad friend in that moment, but I think, like, as you said, people let us down. So I've had people, like, obviously, like, hurt my feelings or, like, let me down in a sense. I haven't had, like, anything where it's, like, catastrophic of, like, we're not friends anymore. But more just, like, again, conflict resolution.
Sure.
Of being upfront, like, saying, hey, this actually hurt my feelings. And not just trying to sideswipe it, because girls, we kind of push everything under the rug and then we explode. And then it might be like one little thing that we explode over, but it's a whole bunch of things built up, where I think guys, y'all kind of punch it out. And then y'all are like, we're friends. Like, we're good. We're good.
Fight it out. We're good.
So I would say girls, like, be upfront and like be confident, like this hurt my feelings, and stand up for yourself, but then be willing to talk about it of like why it hurt.
Yeah.
Why?
I think that's probably some interesting truth you hit on there, that like, when girls have it out, it's like a, we're not friends ever again. And like guys are like, oh, I'm so angry at him. And then they, I'm sure sometimes it actually physically comes to blows, but other times it's like you just explode at each other, and then like all the testosterone or whatever gets out of your head, and you're like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Like, you good? All right,
we're friends again.
Yeah.
What about you, Marty?
Yeah, I think kind of more so being that person that I want to be, like how you were saying, like if I'm not inviting other people to certain things, if I'm not being inclusive, then how can I expect them to be the same way?
Sure.
And so I've had many moments like that to where I've had to like check myself first, like, hey, well, are you inviting other people? I know you want to be included in this, but are you including them in this activity? And so it's just really like making sure that I am that person.
Yeah.
It's like a heart check.
Yeah, that's good.
You don't want to hear it, but it's like, I needed that so I can be better.
You don't want to acknowledge you're the one that's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Even now, there are times where I'll get frustrated. It's like, man, nobody ever wants to hang out. And then like after you're mad for 10 minutes, you're like, when's the last time I invited somebody to hang out? Like, oh, I see. This is like largely my fault.
Absolutely.
This is a personal problem, a personal flaw that I need to deal with.
Yeah.
I can't think of a serious time when a guy friend let me down that it wasn't relatively immediately resolved, because the ones where like the friendship ended tended to be more like they started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and it wasn't like they were doing me wrong. It was more like okay, they're just like, they're making bad choices consistently, and I just know it's like not healthy for me anymore to hang out with them. But I think one of the best lessons that anybody's ever taught me is to the way they worded it is vent up, not out.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea of like talking to a mentor, talking to, if it's a work problem, if you have a job, you talk to your boss, not your coworker. If your sibling is annoying you, talk to, and not like in a tattling way, but like talk to mom or dad don't talk to other brother or sister about, like, oh, they're so annoying. And so same sort of thing with your friend is like to vent out to other friends. It kind of, I realized it was becoming toxic. You know, it kind of spreads because then it becomes, oh, everybody is angry at this one person because they did me wrong. And they did me wrong by not meeting an expectation that they never know they could, that they never knew about. And so that's super unfair to them. And so that was kind of a big turning point for me, was to realize, and it sounds obvious on paper, but it's just like, it's really difficult just to like go and be like, hey, let's just be straight. Like, you did this. That really hurt. And then you just have to deal with it. Like, are we going to not be friends anymore? Are you going to say you're sorry? Like, is there some sort of reconciliation that needs to happen here? Right. So what does it look like on your end, since you kind of hit on it there, whether this is like a result of the expectations you have of other people or just part of your personality? What do you do? How do you try to be the friend that you want to have? Because a lot of times we love each other in the way that we want to be loved. So like if like showing up to people's ball games or plays or whatever is valuable to you, like if you value people showing up to your stuff, you tend to show up to other people's stuff. Absolutely. So like, what is your go-to way of like trying to be that friend that you want to have?
Yeah. For me, I think it is reaching out to people, reaching out to my friends, checking on them, making sure that they are feeling loved, like making sure that they're having a good week. And if there are any type of conflict, I think is really having that conversation with them. Like if the expectations aren't being met, or these invisible expectations, because then we'll be able to say, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you feel that way. Yep. This is the reason why I didn't intend on it. I'm sorry. And then be able to move from there. But more so, it is inviting them. I want to make sure that they feel like they matter and that they belong.
Yeah. And I think maybe a point of clarification is like, it is so much better to do that in person. Like,
absolutely.
Please don't confront via text message. Like,
that is the worst. I've found that out many of times through either bad relationships or friendships. Like, just never do anything through text.
Especially because you can't hear tone in a text message. There's no tone.
There's no tone in text.
Right.
And so, how you wrote it, I read it, like, people will always read it in the worst possible light.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they got a snippy little attitude.
Right.
It's like, no, I was making a sarcastic joke.
Right.
It's like, oh, I thought you were super angry at me. And,
right. Or using periods and not exclamation marks.
Right.
Or, there's like those unspoken rules too.
And that can even require like, hey, like, we need to talk about this, but I am not doing it over text. Like, nothing good's going to happen. And I've had to do that before too. But when you're in person, it's way easier. And also, like, your anger just deflates a lot faster, it seems like, in person. It's like, they're like genuinely did not know that they screwed up and like hurt me so bad. Okay, that doesn't hurt it. Because when I was sitting alone in my bed last night at 1:30 in the morning thinking about this, I thought they were set out to hurt me.
Yeah.
And so, I think, that resolution piece, like, always trying.
And what I've learned too is to have that conversation quicker before it's too long. And it's like, it's really damaging, like, at that point.
Yeah. Oh, it's the snowball, right?
Yeah.
It's like, let's attack it while it's a snowball or even a snowman and not an avalanche. Because that's when it's like, you know what? You always leave the cereal open or whatever. I'm sick of this. We're done. Like, or whatever the stupid thing you wind up blowing up over. And then that person's just standing there like, I guess they're really sensitive about their cereal. Or what about you, Kreider? What does it look like for? Sorry. Well, we still call you Kreider.
No, you still call me Kreider.
Sorry. So what does it look like for you? Like, how are you trying to be the friend that you want to have for people?
For me, my top two love languages are touch and giving gifts, or like and quality time. So it's like those three things. It's very much like things I can do with people or for people. So I'm always that person of like, if I'm seeing something out in public where I'm like, oh my gosh, this video game, Chess would love it. It's so retro. It's cool. Like, he'd want to play Super Smash. Like, I'm going to go buy this for Chess. Because I'm like, Chess would love this. So I love giving gifts for people. I love like just including people. Like I'm an includer, so I want to include people all the time as well. It's like one of my biggest things. So, or even just a simple like remembering what you told me last week. You were doing something with a friend. I'm going to text you and follow up. Hey, how did that go?
Yep.
And just a simple reminder like, I'm invested in things you say to me, so I'm going to ask you about it as well.
Yeah.
I love that. I know when I'm thinking about somebody, I usually take that as an indication that I need to pray for them and then reach out to them and let them know, hey, I'm praying for you today. Hope you have a great day. And you'll be surprised how many text messages or conversations will come out of that. Like, oh, thank you. I needed that because I'm going through this. And so it's a good conversational piece. That way you can like speak into their situation.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think probably the one other one that comes to mind for me, and this is actually a struggle, but I really try to do it, is a lot of times I wind up deciding on the spur of the moment, like, I'm going to go out to dinner. Like, I'm not cooking tonight. Or like, oh, I'm going to go to this place. And it's with no planning at all. It's kind of just like the result of like, I have 3 hours free. What am I going to do with this 3 hours? And it seems like everybody else that I like to hang out with actually plans their lives out. So maybe this is a me problem. But because of that, I try to leave some white space and not fill it up. So I think it's easy to get caught up in work, school, extracurricular sports, all that, and just cram that 16 hours, 18 hours, however long you're awake every day, like from start to finish. And it's like, leave some white space in there, A, because it's healthy to do so. You don't need to be running yourself into the ground. But B, because like sometimes there's like a last minute opportunity, or even you having the white space creates one, and you can just text a friend and be like, hey, I'm not doing anything tonight. You want to go grab dinner? So I think working white space, as hard as that is for like the overachievers out there, like you feel like if you're not doing something, you're wasting your life, and it's not true. Like you're leaving just some margin for yourself, which is something else that we've been talking about at Forest Hill, is like to create margin for yourself. So, is there any other, like if you're given one piece of advice, just like general, how to be a good friend 101, friendship for dummies, whatever you want to call it, what's like your one friendship tip? That'll be like a good thing for us to wrap on.
I would just say, like speaking on like being the friend you want to be, it's like however you want people to treat you, make sure you're treating people the same. And when you're having conflict with them, don't go gossip with to your other friends. Just be confrontational. It feels kind of icky and hard sometimes, but it's really good life skills. So like practice with a safe space and friendships rather than like in the workplace where you're like, oh, I don't really know this person that well.
Yeah.
So practice that and just include people.
Yeah, that's good. What about
That's
you?
so good. I would say be yourself. I mean, the best you is going to be the best friend. And I think if you're just naturally yourself and not trying to portray as somebody else, try to mimic some other friend, I think you're going to be one of the best friends that are out there. You're going to be able to serve and be more intentional with your other friends in that way.
Man, that's good. That's good. I think that's a great place for us to wrap right there. Thanks to both of you for sitting down at the round table. I hope you're able to join me again here soon. For those of you listening and watching, like this, share it with your friends if it was helpful, and make sure you subscribe, and we will see you next week backstage.